Hello and welcome to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. This is Kerry coming to you with a solo holiday episode where I am talking about if print on demand is an actual profitable business. This is always a hot topic throughout the year. So many people talk about if print on demand is actually profitable. And so what's cool about today is I'm going to break down some real raw numbers for you and talk you through a pretty unfiltered conversation about profitability in print on demand. So I know you're going to love it. Before we dive in, I want to ask you to subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, hit that subscribe button, become a listener, follow the podcast. If you're watching over on YouTube, also hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss any new episodes that come out. We would love to have you as a subscriber on the podcast. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the content. What's up and welcome to episode 50 of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. It's Kerry coming to you for a solo episode today. And I want to start off today by just wishing you a happy holiday season. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family and the people you love last week. I know I did. And I also hope you had a profitable Black Friday. Maybe some of you guys are still running those sales at the time of listening to this. And I hope it's been super profitable for you. And I hope you're having a great holiday season in general. Christmas coming up. There's so much going on, and I hope you're getting some relaxation. You are just enjoying time with the family, maybe even taking a little bit of time off from your business. I know it's crazy because it's hard to do that because it's so busy during the holiday season. So you want to be capitalizing on those sales, but I do hope you get some time to relax. I know I've been taking a little bit of time off this holiday season, and that's one of the reasons I'm coming to you solo today. Me and Adrian are just trying out some different things, doing some different ideas here, and so it's cool every once in a while to break away and just go solo for a little bit to talk about a subject that maybe we're a little bit more passionate about. So today we're talking about, is print on demand a profitable business? This is a topic, it's pretty much always a hot topic in the print on demand space because there's such a big difference between what you pay with print on demand for products and sourcing your products and what you pay when you do it yourself. So I'm excited to dive into that discussion today and give you my thoughts on it. But before I do that, I want to read a quick Apple review. This is coming to us from one of our listeners, Queenie Love. What's up, Queenie Love? Thank you for the review. And this review says, this podcast is addicting and full of valuable nuggets in every single episode. Adrian and Kerry are super enthusiastic and generous with their knowledge. I am so inspired and pumped to join the POD community soon, thanks to this podcast. Queenie Love, what a nice review. Thank you so much for that review. And we love hearing your reviews. I want to extend the invite to shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And I'd love to hear what you think about this podcast, but also what you think about maybe an individual episode. So the subject of today is one of those things that can be a little bit controversial. I want to hear your thoughts. So I want to invite you down in the comments on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, let me know what you think about some of the things said in this podcast episode. And also just shoot me a DM over on Instagram. Say what's up. It's at Kerry Egler, KerryEgler. I got a weird name. It's hard to spell, but shoot me a DM and I'd love to hear from you. So let's start off the discussion today in talking about, is print on demand a profitable business? Just talking about who this podcast episode is for. First of all, if you're brand new to print on demand, or maybe you're getting into apparel or one of these other kind of subgenres here, and you're kind of debating, do I use print on demand? Do I print my own t-shirts or have them locally printed, or what are those profit margins like? This is a great episode for you. And if you're an experienced seller and you're selling with print on demand, but maybe you've never actually looked at some of the hard numbers about printing and shipping and packaging yourself, I think this will bring some insight to you and how these businesses work, kind of what the numbers look like. And so I think it might open your eyes a little bit and give you some more needed information. So on this episode, I'm going to be really giving you kind of a little bit unfiltered thoughts on this. I've done videos on this on my YouTube channel that are maybe a little more scripted or a little shorter where I have to be more concise, but now you get a little bit more of a long form flavor, and I want to be completely real with you. So I want to let you know up front, I'm not trying to sell you on print on demand in this episode. There's not necessarily a benefit for me to do that in this episode. I just want to give you the real hard facts. And I also want to give you, so I'm going to give you some facts, but I'm also going to give you just the way that I see it in my view in really being in this business in print on demand for over 7 years, and also just working with thousands of students in my Shirt School programs and also in our coaching programs, Six Figure Founder. So that's what's going to happen here. So I'm going to just try to be as unbiased as possible. I want to give you some real information. So starting it off, one of the biggest complaints or dogs or issues people might have with print on demand is the profit margins. People say, it's not profitable. Doing it yourself is so much more profitable. And that's kind of what we're talking about. Here's the reality. When you look at the numbers flat out, and this is kind of where we're going to start this discussion, is when we just look at the raw numbers, this is how much print on demand costs, and this is how much doing it yourself costs. The answer is that yes, they're right. Print on demand is less profitable from a raw number standpoint than it is doing it yourself. Let me say that in a different way. Doing it yourself, either having your items locally screen printed or printing the items yourself and then packaging and shipping them yourself, there is more profit margin, raw profit margin, than there is doing it with print on demand. That is the truth. There is more profit margin. Does that mean that you should not use print on demand? That's a very complex answer. For me, the answer is in most cases, no, you should use print on demand. And there's a number of reasons why you should do that. Now, obviously, that's what we're going to dive into. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to look at those raw numbers with you. And the example that I'm going to use is the Bell & Canvas 3001. And what I want to do, or what I want to show you with this, is I actually want to give you the real numbers of if you go and you source these items yourself from a wholesaler and you have them locally screen printed and you buy the bags and you buy the labels and all those kind of things, what do those prices actually look like? And then compare that with print on demand and look at the percentages, the profit margin differences that you're going to get so that you can make a more educated decision. One thing I would say right off the bat here, and I kind of want to just eliminate this option from your your head, is printing the t-shirts or the apparel or any items, actually printing them yourself. I really don't think in pretty much any situation in today's world with the access to print on demand, with the access to local printers and different things, I don't think there's a situation where you should be printing them yourself. Let me retract that. There's one situation where I think maybe you should print them yourself, and that's if you already own some kind of screen printing business. So I do actually have a number of students like this where you have a screen printing machine, or you have an office and a warehouse where you actually service local businesses and you already print items in bulk, maybe sweatshirts and hoodies and t-shirts and whatever products, and you want to add on a leg of e-commerce with that and build an apparel brand on the internet. Yeah, you might be a good fit because you already have that business going. You already have access to all of the equipment, and in many cases, with most of my students that are in this situation, you already have a team in place that can produce the items for you, okay? What I say, though, we should eliminate this option from what we're talking about today is if you're a home-based entrepreneur and you're starting up a new apparel business on the internet, it is just, I don't see in any world where it is advantageous to you to invest in the equipment, to actually print the items yourself and then go through the rest of the process. Now, I think packaging and shipping is a different thing that takes a lot less time, but actually printing the designs on your apparel or on your products, it is just very time consuming, and you have to value your time much more than that. So I don't really see many situations where that's a good idea to get a heat press, do transfers and vinyl, or to actually get a little screen printing kit. I don't think it's a good option for 99.9% of people. What I do think could potentially be an option for you, and we're going to talk about this towards the end of the episode, is having your items locally screen printed, meaning you are connecting up with a local screen printer. So a screen printer is just somebody who they create these screens that have your designs burned into them, and they have little tiny holes in them. They actually push ink through those holes onto a t-shirt with your design, and then they run them through a dryer, which actually cures the ink. And this is how most t-shirts are printed, is through screen printing. Now, print on demand uses a different technology. That's a whole different conversation. We're not getting into that today. But local screen printers there's usually a lot of them. The pricing is very good, and they are doing the printing for you, and then you would potentially be packaging and shipping that. So I think that might be a good idea. But anyways, we're talking about profitability. So let's get into the raw numbers. That was a little bit of a long tee up there for this, but we're going to be comparing the Bell & Canvas 3001. If you were to buy them yourself, have them locally screen printed, and I do this myself. This is something that I do have shirts locally screen printed in bulk. So I'm getting these numbers based off of my own local numbers. If you were to do it yourself, what is your all-in price versus print on demand? And then just talking about some of the things that might not be accounted for there. So the Bell & Canvas 3001. Now I went to a wholesale website. There are many of these out there that you can look at. I went to SS Activewear. I have an account there. I have a few other accounts, but that's one that I like. I like their website, and generally they have pretty decent prices. The Bell & Canvas 3001 is $4.15 to buy through SS Activewear if you have a wholesale account. There are some steps to get a wholesale account. Again, that's a whole nother conversation, but that cost for a black size large Bell & Canvas 3001 C is $4.15. Now, one other thing to keep in mind, and you may or may not know this, but with most wholesale websites like this, like SS Activewear, you usually have an order minimum. And I shouldn't say an order minimum, but you have an order minimum to get free shipping. So shipping can actually be pretty expensive from these wholesalers, and I've not accounted for shipping cost in this comparison because it depends on how many you order. So generally with SS Activewear, if you spend more than $200 per order, they're going to waive the shipping. If you're under $200 in your order, that shipping can literally be $25 or $30, which can add pretty significant cost to your t-shirt cost, that $4.15. For our purposes here, we're just going to call it $4.15. Then you're going to have your design printed locally with a screen printer, okay? Now, the cost that I've put into this comparison is $2.55 to have that t-shirt printed locally. I'm going to be completely honest here. This is a very good price. And the way that I got to this price, I actually looked at my local wholesalers' pricing. And let me explain what this is. $2.55 is a 2-color print printed only on the front. This does not include sleeve print. This does not include back print or inside neck label. And this would be if you are printing in a quantity of 12 to 49. So we're assuming that you're having these printed in quantities of at least 12 up to 49 t-shirts of the exact same print. That's $2.55 for a front print with 2 colors, okay? Lots of other things to consider there. I'll try to come back to those other things I'm thinking of, but I want to keep moving. The next cost would be our shipping bag. Typically, I ship these in a poly mailer. You can look these up on Amazon. You can look up poly mailer, and it's going to be 10 by 13. It's kind of the typical size, and that's going to be about 16 cents per bag if you order like 100 on Amazon. So 16 cents for the bag. Then you're going to need a shipping label, and that's going to be about 6 cents per label. These are rough numbers. I just went to Amazon, kind of got the rough numbers here. So that puts our all-in price at $6.92, okay? $6.92 for that Bell & Canvas, 2-color print, front only, quantity of 12 to 49, bag and label, $6.92. Some things that we didn't consider here are the cost of the ink that you're going to need in that printer and most printers. Now, you might be using an inkless printer. That's a whole nother conversation. The cost of the printer, right? You need a printer. You need to pay for a printer, and that's a kind of a fixed cost, a one-time cost. And then you have that, but there is cost there, right? That can be spread out. There's also, just different small things. Like one thing that we use is a little folder, a t-shirt folder that you can get from Amazon. That was a cost we needed because that helps us speed up the folding process, right? So all in at $6.92. Now, the big one here that we didn't account for is labor cost. And I'm not going to spend too much time harping on, maybe I will later in the podcast episode, but we're not factoring in this price, $6.92. We're not factoring in your labor. How much does that cost? For some people, you might say it's $100 an hour. For some people, you might say it's $40 an hour. For some people, you might say it's $500 an hour, right? That's a big cost for that labor. How much does it cost you in labor, your own time and labor, to print the label, get the bag out, fold the t-shirt, put the t-shirt in the bag, put the packing slip in the bag, take the little sticker off, stick the bag, right? And then not even talking about taking it to the postal service or having them, having to schedule a pickup, or however you do that, however you want to do that. Some people like to take all their shirts to the post office. Some people like to schedule the pickup, different ways to do it. Okay, let's talk about print on demand. So I'm just using Gelato Print on Demand as the example here. The same exact Bell & Canvas 3001 is going to be $9.92 all in. Okay, so that's going to include the bag, the sticker, the ink, the packing slip, the label, and that's also going to include the labor cost, right? That Gelato has to pay these employees or their production partners. They have to pay them at least a portion of the profit. I don't know exactly how they pay them, but they have to pay for that labor, right? So it's $9.92. It's kind of weird that it came out. My example came out exactly $3 difference. So just to recap that, doing it yourself, a 2-color print, having it done locally, 12 to 49 quantity, doing it all yourself, you're all in at $6.92 US, not including labor. And with print on demand, you're all in at $9.92, which is a difference of $3 even US. Okay. So many things that are so hard to really factor in there, but I want to really kind of phrase it this way or position it this way for you. Is the value of your time, your energy, the brain power to fold the shirts, pick them up from the local screen printer? You got to drive to the screen printer, pick up the shirts. You got to drop them off at the screen printer, printing the label, folding the shirt. If any of you out there have folded hundreds of shirts, it's not easy. It's not easy work. It actually can be very, very physical. I worked for a screen printer before I ever got into e-commerce. It's interesting because I actually got into this whole screen printing thing and actually printing t-shirts way before I ever got into e-commerce. And I started working for a screen printer when I was 20 years old, I believe. Worked there for maybe 2 years. Didn't start an e-commerce business until I was 27, 28. So 5-6 years later. And so it's hard work, right? So is the value of your time, your energy, the brain power to pick up the shirts, drop them off at the screen printer, print the label, fold the shirts, package the shirt, and make sure it gets to the post office, is that worth $3 per shirt? Right? Is that worth it? So I think that's the question we have to ask. You are paying a $3 premium per shirt to have a team do it for you and for you to not have to think about it. You don't even have to think about it, right? With print on demand, everything's automated. And so you're paying roughly, now this is going to be so much different depending on the blank and the product, obviously. We're just using a t-shirt as an example. You are paying a $3 premium per shirt. Now, I know for me, and I'm just going to be honest, and I have more here in my notes that I want to talk about this, but for me to be able to not even think about and worry about, is that shirt getting printed? Is that shirt getting packaged? Am I having to do it myself? As I'll have later in my notes, like this is something we've done over the years and we've tested in our own, online t-shirt businesses. And there's also this factor of like, it weighs on you when you've got 50 or 75 orders that are sitting there that have to be shipped, but you have a huge list of things that you need to do in the business in addition to that. And you're looking at those shirts, looking at those orders going, it's been 2 days, it's been 3 days, it's been 4, hopefully never got to 4 or 5 days, but there's times where you get backed up, right? And then it's like, if you don't do it, it's not getting done. And there have been so many, nights where my wife and I text my wife or go to her in the house and just say, can you come out? Can we just knock this out? 2 hours, me and you, let's go knock it out, right? Let's go knock out all these orders. And it sucks, okay? So for me, a $3 premium to erase that from my brain and not have to think about that side of it is absolutely worth it to me, okay? But you have to determine, is that worth it for you? So let's look at this in a little bit different of a frame. Let's say you're selling your t-shirt, this exact, we're using these exact numbers here, $6.92 if you're printing it yourself, $9.92 if you're doing it with Gelato. Again, a $3 premium. The other way that, and I'm probably going to butcher this part, but the other way I was thinking about this is just like, looking at your time. What is your time worth and putting a number on that? Let's say you're worth $100 per hour is what you would value your labor at. And, then looking at how many t-shirts could you package per hour? I don't know what that number is. It's probably somewhere around 50, maybe, a little less than 1 per minute, I would assume, or maybe a little faster than that. It could be between 50 and 70 maybe. And then so you start looking at, okay, what does that make my time worth per shirt, right? You start kind of thinking about that, which is really interesting to kind of do that math. But nevertheless, there's so many other things to consider there. So using these numbers, let's say you're selling your t-shirt at $30 on your website, $30, okay? And if you're printing it yourself at that $6.92, you have a 23% cost of goods in that sale price. 23%, $6.92. That leaves you with a 77% profit margin, okay? So if you're doing it yourself, $30 sale price, 23% cost of goods, that leaves you with a 77% profit margin. With print on demand, you have that same, let's say you have that same $30 sale price. Now keep in mind, you can always raise the price with print on demand, and you could have the same profit margin if you're worried about that $3, just factor in an additional $3. But let's say you're at that same $30 sales price. With print on demand at that $9.92 cost, you have a 33% cost of goods compared to a 23% cost of goods doing it yourself, which leaves you with a 67% profit margin versus a 77% profit margin doing it yourself. That's a difference of 10% in your profit margin per t-shirt. To me, the difference is negligible, and here's why. Time, brain power, energy that you can save can be put into marketing, selling, and creating and launching new designs. These are the only things, marketing, selling, launching new designs. These are the only things that will put more money into your bank account. Printing, packing, and shipping orders will not put more money into your bank account. Is it an important part of the process and part of your business? Absolutely. Fulfillment is an important part of your business, but it will not directly put more money into your bank account. The only thing that will is selling, marketing, and creating and launching new designs, okay? And again, I'd say that the difference of 10% is negligible and totally worth it because you don't have to hire a team. You get a team built in for you that the print on demand is already hired, right? If you've ever hired anybody, fired anybody, trained anybody, it's not fun. It's not. And having a great team is awesome. It really is. But the investment of your energy, your time, your focus is hard. It's hard to find the right people, especially if they're going to be packing and shipping orders. Sometimes that quality of person is not the greatest. Okay. You get to tap into hundreds of millions of dollars of technology and infrastructure that automates the whole shipping and printing process for you. I want you to think about this. Some of these companies, most of these print-on-demand companies that you see out there, many of them have had hundreds of millions of dollars invested into their companies that has gone into building out the technology and infrastructure for you to be able to create products easily, integrate with your Shopify store, and then automatically have that sent out to production facilities. With some print-on-demands, like we've talked about with Gelato here, you have access to print production partners in 32 countries and growing, which means you can sell locally all over the world, where when you're doing it yourself, that's just not a possibility. You don't have a print facility in Australia or in the UK, or if you're over there, if you're overseas, maybe here in the US or in Canada or in Mexico, right? With linking up with the print on demand, you tap into that network, that technology, right? That automation. You don't have to dedicate any time or energy to fulfillment. That's all time and energy you can put into marketing, selling, and creating new designs. Here's another huge thing, why that 10% is negligible. You get instant access to source hundreds of products because you're connected to a large company that's already done the legwork to find these products and set up the relationships. When you're a small business like we are, it's hard to find and source hundreds of different products. It's hard to create those relationships and find those companies and be able to create those accounts and different things. With print on demand, you're tapping into their network that they already have, which is super powerful, right? And gives you access to all those hundreds of products. And many print on demands have hundreds of products. And lastly, you get to test products with no risk because you can list a new product with print on demand, test it right away, see if it sells, and go from there. There are so many other benefits of print on demand and why I believe that 10% difference in cost of goods is very negligible. But this is just my view, right? And my perspective on it. So I think the big question is it worth that difference, that 10% margin to you? Is it worth that to you? Okay. Now, the last part of this episode that I really want to propose to you is that there are some situations where it might make sense for you to have your items locally printed, package and ship them yourself, or have a team, okay? So let's talk about when does it make business sense to start having your items printed in bulk to increase margin. Now remember, that's one of the big differences is when you're having them locally printed or even doing it yourself, a lot of times you're going to have to print them in bulk. Okay, that's the only way you're going to get the pricing and get that margin. And in fact, I actually had we had a six-figure founder student recently who got a wholesale order. So they sell online, they use print on demand, but they got a business that wanted them to print a bunch of items in bulk and wanted to buy those at wholesale prices so they could sell them in their business. And that student of ours went out to their local screen printer, and because the quantities were so small, they were only getting maybe 5 to 10 per design. Because those quantities were so small, it was actually costing considerably more than print on demand, even though she was printing a little bit more in bulk, not a huge bulk, but 5, 10 items at a time, 10 designs at a time. So it doesn't always make sense, right? So when does it make business sense? Here's three situations where I believe it makes sense to have your items printed in bulk and either to increase margin and either package them yourself and ship them yourself or have a team do it. Okay. Number one is when you reach the revenue tipping point where it makes you more profit to hire out your packaging and shipping. There is a revenue tipping point in your business in monthly revenue in just a t-shirt apparel business that it makes more financial sense to hire someone to package and ship all your orders, okay? And it will actually increase the amount of profit that you're bringing home per month. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say you're doing $15,000 in revenue, and after all expenses, you make about $5,250 in profit. That's going to be around 35% profit margins, net profit margins after all expenses. Okay, so you're doing $15,000 in revenue, and you're bringing home $5,250 in profit. You're using print on demand. You're getting about 35% profit margins. If you were to hire someone part-time, and we're going to say about $1,800 a month. Now, that's a hard number to come up with because different areas of the world, different areas of the country, $1,800 US per month might sound high. It might sound low. I know here in Oklahoma, very low cost of living. I could probably hire somebody part-time, maybe even around the $1,400, $1,500 per month, even less than that, to package and ship all of my orders. So let's say you hired someone part-time at $1,800 per month. Maybe they're working 15 hours a week, 20 hours a week, and they're going to package and ship all of your orders. That would now leave you with $3,450 in profit as opposed to $5,250 in profit. But if you were to increase your margins by around 15%, that would give you an additional $2,250 in profit, which would increase your overall profit to $5,700. So you just made about $500 a month more in profit by switching from print on demand to having everything locally printed and hiring somebody part-time to package and ship your orders. Now, you might be saying to yourself, that's not a lot. $500 is not a lot more per month. Now, we're using the example of $15K in revenue. If you were to get to $20K, if you were to get to $30K, to $40K, and so on, $50K per month, as your business grows, those numbers are going to tip in your favor and the profit is going to be considerably more. With print on demand, you're basically at a fixed profit margin, forever, right? But as you scale up, now you may have to hire more help, but essentially there's going to be for a considerable amount of time, you might be able to have that part-time employee package and ship all your orders if you are efficient, okay? And there are other benefits that you'll get out of doing this, such as possibly higher print quality, higher quality products. You can insert things into the packaging. You can customize the packaging, which can create a better customer experience for your customers. And you might be able to do some more things with the customer experience that might just make your product and your business overall better. So in looking at the numbers, that tipping point is somewhere around $15K in revenue. So if you're right now, you're doing about $15K to $20K in revenue, you might want to consider looking at having your items locally printed and hiring out someone to package and ship your orders, maybe hiring your first employee. There are other expenses with that. There's other things to consider. So I'm giving you a pretty rough picture here, but I do want to, just kind of show you that this is kind of where the tipping point is. Now, if you run these same numbers at 10K per month in revenue, they don't really make sense. You might even end up losing some of that margin by switching away from print on demand because of the cost to hire somebody and pay the salary and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's making sense. That's number one. When you reach the revenue tipping point, which is around 15K per month. Okay. It's different for everybody, but okay. Number two, when does it make business sense to start having your items printed in bulk to increase margin? Number two, if you only print your best sellers. Okay. So if you have one or a few items that are selling hundreds of sales per month, it makes sense to print those items and ship those one or two items yourself to increase margins because you can buy it in bulk. Okay. So let's say right now you have a print on demand store and you have 50 designs in that print on demand store, but you have 2 designs that are just crushing it and they're accounting for maybe 60, 70, 80% of your sales right? And you're just selling a ton, right? It's the holiday season right now. We just had Black Friday. You might have a winning best-selling design that's just crushing it, okay? It makes a lot of sense to just take that one design or those two designs, have them locally printed in bulk, ship them yourself, maybe just for the holiday season, or maybe indefinitely. Maybe it's just those couple designs or any big selling designs. And this can greatly increase your profit margins. And it also hopefully doesn't cost you a ton of time because it's just one or two of your products. Now, it's hard to say for sure to do this because, as I mentioned, if it's accounting for 70, 80% of your revenue, that's still going to take a lot of your time, and it better be worth it to get those margins. But this could be a situation where you might want to do it. This is something I've done, is having those best-selling designs that are consistent bestsellers, having those locally printed, but keeping the rest of my store on print on demand. Okay, the last time, or number 3 situation where it maybe makes business sense to have some of your items printed in bulk is if you package and ship your own sale items for large sale times, such as Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which we just had, July 4th, Labor Day, Prime Day. So what you can do is similar to number 2 is, let's take Black Friday, Cyber Monday, for instance, just happened, right? If you're creating special designs, limited edition designs for these sales, and you're heavily discounting them, it definitely makes sense to print those in bulk and do it yourself. Also knowing print or shipping yourself, packaging and shipping yourself, because you know that this is only for a season. This is only for the fourth quarter, or this is only for a couple days when I run this, July 4th sale or Prime Day sale. This is a good idea because you can look at your data and you can say, I know I'm going to make sales for this time period, this short time period. So I'm going to locally print the items that I'm going to put on sale. And this can really, really help you rake in the profits, help you milk those profits. So those are three situations. It might make business sense to do it on your own. I think we're going to wrap it up right there. Thank you for listening to this episode. Again, reach out to me, DM me at Kerry Egler on Instagram. Also leave a comment down in the YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. This has been a lot of fun just talking about this and just hanging out with you on a solo podcast. I think me and Adrian will be back next week, back together. But I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. I hope this was super helpful today, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us an honest review on whichever platform you're listening from. We love the reviews, and we love showcasing those reviews on these episodes, and we love hearing what we can improve on or how much you loved it. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.